What is good, YouTube man? Today I'm back with you guys with the nation for another video, and today I have us a conversation that needs to be had, right? We have just traded year 3. I think he was going into year 3. Wide receiver out of South Carolina, Bryan Edwards. So we traded him off. We shipped him off to Atlanta, reuniting him with Marcus Mariota. Now, in my opinion, it doesn't leave a big void, but there is still now a void on the roster at the receiving core for a true wide receiver 2 position. In my opinion, I didn't really know if Bryan Edwards was going to fulfill that role anyways, but with him being gone, it shows 2 things. They didn't have any plans with him, and now we need to talk about a potential replacement. So I'm going to give you guys 5 names. 4 of them are new. 1 of them, I think we may already have on the roster. And starting off is somebody that the Las Vegas Raiders are very, very close with, are not familiar with whatsoever, or they're very familiar with. They're not strangers at all. And that is Nelson Agholor. It's coming closer and closer to June. It seems like the Patriots may part ways with Mr. Nelly. And in my opinion, I don't really think this one needs much of an explanation. Bringing Nelly back, he slides right in. He fills the void. He knows the offense. He has that rapport with Derek Carr. There is no explanation needed for this. He can take the top off. He can be a deep threat. He can be a decoy. And on top of that, something that I know a lot of you guys had mentioned when I first spoke about Nelson Agholor was, why would he come to a scheme that he didn't do much in? Well, let me tell you this about Nelson Agholor really quick before we get on to the next player. Nelson Agholor, in my opinion, his production wasn't due to scheme. His production was having many weapons in front of him that the defense had to account for. The defense had to account for Henry Ruggs' speed. The defense had to account for Hunter Run from the slot. The defense had to account for Darren Waller, all before they had to account for Nelson Agholor. It left him with one-on-one matchups, and we know that Nelson Agholor took advantage of those one-on-one matchups, which is why I think a return to the Las Vegas Raiders would make a ton of sense. Think about it. He went and he got paid like a number 1 receiver when he's not a number 1. He is a phenomenal role player. In New England, N'Keal Harry, nobody's scared of that. Kendrick Bourne, nobody's scared of that. Hunter Henry and the other tight end they got, well, that's a little bit tougher to talk about when you're talking about 2 outside receivers, but he didn't have the weapons and the guys to free him up like he will with the Las Vegas Raiders. So if Nelly is an option, which I think he will be shortly, I think this needs no explanation. We should definitely look into acquiring and bringing back Nelson Agholor to the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, this next player on this list, he's a future Hall of Famer. He is a future Hall of Famer, and he was just recently released earlier on this offseason. Everybody knows the man. He's a household name. He goes by Julio Jones. Now, Julio is 33 years old. This could very well be his last NFL season. So, in my opinion, why not make it with the Las Vegas Raiders? He only played 9 games last year with the Tennessee Titans, but still racked up over 700 yards. That's extremely, extremely productive for a 32-year-old receiver at the time. And I think he didn't have the numbers that you would want in the red zone with the touchdowns, but at the same time, we know who was getting the touches in the red zone in Tennessee. It wasn't Julio. Wasn't A.J. Brown. It was Derrick Henry. So, looking at this situation, you may only have Mr. Julio for the first 8 games of the season, or you can absolutely hit the jackpot, and maybe Julio Jones puts an entire season together at 33 years old. In my opinion, um, I think this one is kind of a no-brainer. If the Raiders are in a market for a true wide receiver too, Julio Jones, he takes a lot, a lot of attention, even with being 33 years of age. I think that with Julio Jones being on this offense, he would be like the third, maybe fourth option, but teams would still have to account for him. And just put the picture in your head, you guys. Imagine a defensive coordinator having to scheme in the red zone for Hunter, for Waller, for Kenyon, for Jacobs, for Devontae, and then you add Julio Jones, who's a big body receiver that would make any defensive back in the NFL pay, even at 33 years old. I would be very, very intrigued on a Julio Jones pickup. I know he's out of his prime, but as my brother Wasted would say, 70% of Julio is better than 100% of most of these other receivers. And he ain't never lied. So I would love to do that. Next on this list is funny enough, I said that Julio may only last 8 games. Well, you might not see OBJ until the first 8 games go by. And like I said, I just spoiled it. It's Odell Beckham. The man just had a phenomenal postseason, winning himself a Super Bowl title with the Los Angeles Rams, but the injury bug struck again. He tore the same knee up, season ending. Well, not season ending because it was at the end of the season, anyways, but finished and cut his Super Bowl short. He was looking like possibly being the MVP of that Super Bowl. Had the first touchdown of the game, tore up the exact same knee he tore up the season before. But at the end of the day, he's 29 years old. We saw he has a lot of juice left in the tank. And like I said, with him, you probably won't even be seeing him until the second half of the season. But as always, when good teams hit their stride, it's in the second half. So if you go, let's say, 6-2 in the first half of the season, and then you add OBJ to the roster with him being fully healthy, that would be extremely, extremely potent. This offense is already going to be potent anyways, but you add OBJ in the mix week 8, week 7, and it just becomes a full-blown nightmare for any opposing defense, any single one. And like I said, man, the man's a free agent, had a great postseason, but do you take a chance on an injury-prone receiver? There's pretty much a lingering factor with every single one of these options so far. Now, the next one on this list also somewhat has an injury bug, but he may have a bigger bug than just injuries, and that's Mr. Will Fuller. Now, there's no doubt that Will Fuller can take the top off. There's no doubt that Fuller is a number 2 wide receiver. He has that caliber. He plays like one when he's on the field. But there's two things that's kept him off, and that's injuries and PEDs. The man has been getting caught with PEDs. I believe this is the second time now in his career, but it's looking like he's still on the market. That very well could be a reason why. And in my opinion, bringing in Will Fuller, you're bringing in a guy the teams have to respect the deep ball. You would bring in a guy that has proven he can be a great number 2. Him and Brandon Cooks, I believe, 2 years ago, absolutely tore up the NFL with Deshaun Watson throwing them the ball. I would like to see this. I would welcome this, but you got to stay healthy and you can't stay on the PEDs. Now, the last person on this list is a guy that's already on the roster. He's already on the roster. He was recently acquired, and he's been in the NFL for 5 years. He's 29 years old. He's played for the Jets. He's played for the Jaguars, and is now making himself an appearance in the silver and black. And that's wide receiver Keelan Cole. He's a bigger body wide receiver. Like I said, he's going on to his 6th NFL season. Now, something to look at when you're looking at Keelan Cole, 2017 and 2020 were his best productive seasons. He had 700 plus yards in 2017, 650 yards or 650 plus yards back in 2020 on his contract year. And he actually had 8 touchdowns that year with Gardner Minshew throwing the ball. Now he's with the Las Vegas Raiders, has Derek Carr throwing him the ball. And what I like the most about this guy is that he was an undrafted free agent. Hopefully that's motivation to all the new pickups as UDFAs that we brought into this roster this offseason. But I believe that Keelan Cole not only will make this roster, but I think he has a big shot at being that number 2 receiver, right? We know that Derek Carr's built himself rapport with these bigger bodies, these guys that he can kind of just throw it up one on one, trust them. And guess what? He always says this: it's either you or nobody. It's not getting picked off. It's either you catch it or nobody does. Simple as that. And Keelan Cole can offer that. He can offer that for sure. And also something to look at with him is he's always healthy. Not like all these other guys, right? Besides Nelly. Nelly's also healthy, but Julio, OBJ, Will Fuller, these guys are injury prone these last couple years. And Keelan Cole is the exact opposite. He is not injury prone. In fact, out of 80 eligible career games, he's played in 79 of them. He's only missed one game his entire NFL career. Keelan Cole, he's already on the roster. What do you guys think? Could he be that number 2? Do we already have that number 2 on the roster? Do you think that somebody else, Demarcus Robinson, maybe Hunter Renfrow becomes a more of an outside receiver, although I don't see it happening. But what do you guys think will happen with this number 2 vacant spot at the wide receiver position? With the departure of Bryan Edwards, there is a void in the roster. Let me know what you guys think. Should I have put other guys on this list? Do you think I'm crazy for even talking about these guys? But let me know all of your comments in the comment section down below. As always, Runner Nation, I love y'all. Stay safe. Thank y'all, and I'm out. Peace.
Welcome to the Death Star, where our opponent's dreams come to die.